Good afternoon. Welcome. We'll just give another minute or so in case some people might be joining a bit late, and then we will start. Okay, so we'll start now. We have already 28 people joining. We've had more than 100 registrations, so I guess people will continue joining the webinar. My name is Manos Tsiasiotis. I will be the host for today, together with Adam Lukas, my colleague from the EDiHTA Consortium. We're happy to have you here, and this webinar will focus, as per its title, on the open call that is currently up and running from the EDiHTA Consortium and the EDiHTA project. Few words on housekeeping. There will be a front desk presentation from our side in the very beginning to give some further context on the open call and how it's currently ongoing. And then we will have an open Q&A session where you will be able to take the word. Actually, we can open your microphone as long as you raise your hand, and then you can set the questions. You can also pose your questions on the Q&A section that is up on the screen next to the chat box. So if there are any questions during the presentation, during the first half hour, you can write them in there, and there's going to be Fruzina, who is already working on that section, and she will be responding to your questions. If the question is too long and needs to be addressed in the Q&A session, she will highlight this, and we will do so accordingly. A reminder that the session is also registered. So once finished, basically, the video will be shared in our social media channels, including YouTube and, of course, our website. So without any further ado, I think we can start getting a bit more into the specifics of the open call. As I said, my name is Manos Tsiasiotis. I'm the project coordinator working for the Catholic University of Sacred Heart, which is the coordinating partner, the scientific coordinating partner of the EDiHTA Consortium. I guess most of the people that have subscribed for this webinar know EDiHTA from the work we've been doing in the past 2 years. We have another 2 years ahead of us. The main objective is to develop a health technology assessment framework for Europe and in order to evaluate digital health technologies. There is already a lot of material ongoing on our website and also publications. So if you need specific and details on the work we've been doing from a scientific point of view, you can follow that exercise. But just to give you a bit of an overview of where we are now, we have finalized the development of the framework. We are now moving into the digitalization phase of it, as the end product of EDiHTA will be actually a digital toolkit. And one part of it actually is going to consider as end users, developers and manufacturers, such as yourselves. And it's important to mention that we are now moving into the validation phase of the framework, so of the scientific work that has been rigorously and with a very robust methodology carried out in the last 2 years. So we're currently ongoing an exercise where we involve stakeholders following a stakeholder workshop carried out 3 weeks ago. There will be a survey following. But the center of the attention also for today's webinar and also for the framework is when actually we will be piloting with specific use cases this framework in real world contexts. And this is where this open call stands. Just to let you know, the piloting phase will run into 2 different acts. One is internally with 6 hospital sites that will be testing the EDiHTA framework with existing methodologies and existing technologies that are currently implemented in the hospital context. And from the other side, we have the open call. So we have the use cases that will be selected through this open call in order to be addressed by national health technology assessment agencies, more specifically AQUAS and FINCTA, the Finnish agency, and AQUAS is the Catalan agency from the other hand. I don't think I want to delay any further the presentation of Adam, because Adam has the specifics and the details of the inclusion, exclusion criteria, the process of the open call, how it's ongoing, deadlines, and so on. So I will leave the floor to Adam. He can get you into the specifics. And as I mentioned, please put your questions in the Q&A section. We will try to respond immediately. If not, we will have the Q&A session live with the possibility of you opening your microphone and sharing your question in the last half hour of the webinar.
Thank you very much, Manos, for the introduction, and good afternoon, everyone. Maybe just before jumping in, also a brief introduction from myself. So my name is Adam Lukács. I am part of EIT Health, who is a member of the EDiHTA Consortium. EIT Health is a network of innovators, and we support, let's say, the uptake of new innovations in the domain of health across Europe. In our network, we have developers of digital health technologies, but also other types of stakeholders from the side of the industry, from the side of research, academia, and policy. And we are excited, of course, to be part of the EDiHTA project when it comes to supporting the assessment, health technology assessment of digital health solutions, and supporting, therefore, the, let's say, the market access of these technologies. Just checking that you can all see my slide, by the way,
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Anastasia, for confirming. Then without further ado, maybe let's jump right in. So we are here to walk you through the EDiHTA Open Call for technology developers to support the piloting activities in the project, as Manos has explained. Manos already gave, I think, quite a good introduction to the project, and we assume that you are more or less already familiar with it. But as a reminder, so the EDiHTA project is the first European digital health technology assessment framework co-created by all stakeholders in the value chain. It's a research initiative funded under the European Union's Horizon Europe program and running between 2024 and 2027. So we are just in the 3rd year of implementation now, and this is prime time to begin the piloting activities. The purpose is to deliver a fit-for-purpose HTA framework, health technology assessment framework, including supporting materials, which can help the decision-making process for different types of digital health solutions and technologies at different maturity levels. So in the project, it's not only the development of an HTA framework, but also the design and development and delivery of supporting tools and materials that can help, on the one side, the decision makers, and on the other side, the developers of these digital technologies themselves when it comes to their technology assessment. And the aim of this piloting stage is indeed to test the comprehensiveness of the EDiHTA framework that has been designed and developed, as well as the supporting tools, so the EDiHTA platform and the toolkit, particularly the toolkit at this stage. And for this reason, we would like to sort of externalize a bit what has been done so far and make sure that that we are inviting the digital health technology community to support the validation efforts, and make sure that we broaden our horizon and involve real-world use cases in the piloting process. So this is the purpose of the open call, and presumably you have registered for this webinar because you might be interested to potentially participate as a use case in supporting the consortium in testing and piloting the comprehensiveness of the framework and the related supporting tools. And what we hope to accomplish with this pilot is to generate some insights on whether the framework and the related materials can meaningfully support a consistent, transparent, and proportionate evaluation of digital health technologies. The ultimate end goal really is to collect feedback and make sure that the EDiHTA framework is refined and further fine-tuned in anticipation for wider scaling and policy uptake across the European Union. With that said, the two objectives of the pilot are to, on the one hand, pilot the EDiHTA framework and its comprehensiveness in a real-world context, and on the other hand, to test the acceptability, the acceptance, the usability, clarity, and the added value of the EDiHTA toolkit. How we will concretely accomplish this or hope to accomplish this with the piloting is by applying the EDiHTA framework on some selected digital health technology use cases. So we hope to, in this pilot, enroll some technologies that have different intended purposes, different maturity levels, and are different types of technologies, and apply the EDiHTA framework on these technologies, undertaking an HTA assessment process, and therefore see if the EDiHTA framework is suitable and fit for purpose. This will enable us to evaluate the framework with some standardized indicators in terms of comprehensiveness and capability to evaluate different types of DHTs, digital health technologies. So we are looking to collect some structured feedback from pilot participants on the one hand, and from the partners of the EDiHTA consortium that are undertaking the validation exercise on the other hand. So as I mentioned, we are not only interested in validating and testing the framework itself, but also some of the corresponding supporting tools and materials, particularly the toolkit. So this will be something that we envision will help to navigate the EDiHTA framework by sort of serving as guidelines for, on the one hand, digital health technology manufacturers and developers, and on the other hand, those institutions or organizations that are undertaking the HTA assessment. And finally, hopefully, we will be able to identify some gaps or ambiguities, any improvements needed for this framework, so that it can be fit for purpose for implementation across Europe. Ultimately, there will be a platform that will be hosting this framework. So it's important through this piloting process to ensure that robust validation has been completed, and that the framework is fit for purpose to be made available through the platform. And finally, maybe another point to mention is that EDiHTA is, of course, also it has a vested interest in capacity building across all stakeholders. In the project, we foresee the development of some education and training materials, and we hope to be able to pilot some of these as well during the open piloting process. So maybe just this timeline will give you a bit of an idea. So very specifically on the application process, if your organization or company is interested to be a potential use case in the pilot, what happens is that the call for the open call for applications was opened already earlier last month, and the deadline for submission of your expression of interest is the 20th of March. On the EDiHTA website, you will be able to find the application form that we are asking those of you that are interested to participate to fill in. So I would encourage you to navigate to the website and fill in the application. It's quite a short form, but we do ask that you supply some information that will enable us to understand if you might be a good fit for the pilot, and vice versa for you to tell the EDiHTA consortium what it is that captured your interest in participating in this piloting process, so that we can have mutual benefits both as pilot participants and as consortium members. Following the closure of the application period, we will go into a bit of a selection process whereby we will be interested to pick 2 use cases, and I will explain what the use cases are in a minute. But we will be interested to pick 2 use cases that are the best fit for the ambitions and for the requirements of the pilot. And this will be done through a bit of an eligibility checking, followed by a short and remote evaluation of the application packages, and then finally a brief interview where we will get to know each other with the selected or the shortlisted pilot participants. This will be preceded by, this will be followed by a preparatory phase, which will enable us to be geared up for the launch of the piloting, which we foresee to happen in July. And the actual piloting activities will run between July 2026 and April 2027, which we foresee to be the end of this process. So during the July 26 and the April 27 period, we will be actively working closely with the selected pilot use cases to undertake the validation of the EDiHTA framework and the supporting toolkit. So this slide just explains a bit more about how we will be approaching the selection of use cases, and in the next slide you will see what those use cases are, hopefully. But as I mentioned, there will be a very short internal eligibility check that we will do with the consortium to verify that the application meets closely the requirements of the pilot. Then there will be the engagement of a selection committee that will be appointed by the project, composed of the health technology assessment agencies participating as partners in EDiHTA and supported by members of the external EDiHTA Independent Advisory Board. Finally, as I mentioned, those applications that have been shortlisted through this pilot fit selection process will be approached and invited to participate in an interview. And really here the idea is to give you as technology developers the opportunity to meet the EDiHTA consortium, make sure that there is mutual interest to participate in the pilot, but also for the EDiHTA consortium to understand your motivations and to make sure that that there is a close fit with the ambitions of the piloting process. And of course, those technologies that have been given the opportunity or selected to be part of the pilot will be approached with a notification of final selection. And throughout this process, we will ensure that you kept informed of the continuity of your expressions of interest in the selection process. In terms of what is the general criteria for participating as a potential use case, of course, we are quite open to interested digital health technology developers from the European developers community when it comes to a variety of and diversity of technical and scientific and clinical domains. But essentially, we are looking for micro, small, or medium-sized enterprises, as well as large companies who are developing digital health technologies. It is a framework that is looking to serve the purposes of health technology assessment for digital health solutions within Europe. And so therefore, we are asking that the pilot participants are established in EU member states or Horizon Europe associated countries, and that the technology is currently being implemented in these countries. The technologies in scope can be quite diverse. We are mostly covering telemedicine, mobile app, and AI-driven solutions. In the call document on the EDiHTA website, you will see a bit more about the definitions for the use cases that we are looking to enroll. But we do ask that if the solution is a medical device classified as a medical device under the MDR, then this technology should already be quite mature, CE marked, and already on the market. I should say that we are not currently looking to collaborate closely with solutions that are purely hardware without a digital component or purely solutions that are purely robotics. So again, the focus is more on digital health tools that are either telemedicine, mobile app, or AI-driven solutions. And finally, maybe most importantly for you as potential use cases, we do anticipate and expect that you are available and willing to collaborate closely with the EDiHTA consortium and with the participating HTA agencies, so that during the piloting process, we are able to receive structured feedback from yourselves and collaborate closely. Maybe a couple of words on each of the two use cases. So as I mentioned, we are looking to enroll two digital health technologies to help us pilot the EDiHTA framework. And we do have in the consortium two HTA agencies that would be matched with one of the each one of these use cases. So the first sort of pilot will be supported by AQUAS, the Agency for Health Quality and Assessment in Catalonia. AQUAS is, of course, very renowned already for its expertise in healthcare evaluations within the Catalan health system and the Catalan health setting. And they do have a framework that kind of looks to address the limitations of traditional HTA when it comes to the evolving needs and complexities of digital health solutions. So in the pilot, AQUAS is a key driver, and they already bring, so the AQUAS team brings quite some expertise in digital health specific evaluations. So they are an asset to the piloting stage of the project. In terms of the selected use case that we hope to have on board in the piloting process to work closely with AQUAS, we are looking for a CE-marked medical device, so CE-marked under the medical devices regulation that is already on the market and implemented in a minimum of 2 countries of the EU or Horizon Europe associated countries. For the second use case that we are looking to enroll, the match will be made with FINTA, which is the Finnish Coordinating Center for Health Technology Assessment. It's a national body that is responsible in Finland to coordinate health technology assessment activities among university hospitals and also well-being counties. And similarly to AQUAS, FINTA also has already pioneered a framework for digital health technology evaluations called the DHT framework. And so FINTA is interested to assess the newly developed EDiHTA framework with their existing competencies and existing know-how. And so for this reason, FINTA is also a relevant and important knowledge partner within EDiHTA. For this use case, we look to ensure that FINTA is able to collaborate with a use case that can either be a non-medical device, or if it's a medical device, it should already be CE marked under the MDR. And in either case, the solution that we are looking for should be in the market and in Finland, or possibly some other European member states or Horizon Europe associated countries. So in order to make sure that we select technologies that somehow meet these criteria and are able to collaborate closely with one of these two HTA agencies, after the eligibility checking, we will look at the relevance of the company of the technology for the EDiHTA piloting process, and we will also be able to and interested to take a closer look at the feasibility to implement the pilots with the selected technology. So we are not, of course, looking to make any specific comment or let's say evaluation on your technology when it comes to its value. What we are interested here is to select technologies that are able to collaborate closely with the existing consortium. So if you are selected or not, it's not an immediate comment, of course, on the technology itself. It's more a mutual assured benefit for each participant and of the EDiHTA consortium. So for this reason, we will be looking to investigate a bit more closely the extent to which your company's profile fits with the ambitions of the pilot, the extent extent to which the digital health technology that you are bringing to the pilot actually fits with the objectives of the pilot when it comes to the complementarity and diversity of use cases that we would like to enroll. And of course, the availability of data to inform an HTA process. And then finally, from a feasibility standpoint, we are looking to have a team that is motivated and ready to engage in the period between July 2026 and April 2027. And of course, share data and evidence for HTA assessment purposes. I would not go too much into the details of the interviews, but just for you to know that if you are interested in applying and if you have been sort of shortlisted through the pilot fit assessment, then you will be invited for a short interview, just again to be able to meet the consortium, meet the HTA agencies, and make sure that there is mutual interest to work together and collaborate. So bear in mind these dates. We will of course communicate with you if you have been invited to participate, but we foresee the interviews to take place between 20th of April and 13th of May. What we anticipate from pilot participants is to provide documentation and evidence to the assigned HTA agencies within agreed timelines to enable an HTA evaluation using the EDiHTA framework. Provide structured feedback on the HTA process undertaken by the EDiHTA framework, and therefore help us to test and validate the framework and the toolkit. It will likely involve a couple of joint virtual workshops or interviews with the partners of the EDiHTA consortium to be able to share some direct feedback on your experience going through the HTA process using the EDiHTA framework. And then, of course, we will be asking yourselves as developers to share your, let's say, your impressions, your feedback that will help us to improve the EDiHTA framework and the toolkit. There will be a report that captures the outcomes of the pilot, which we will also share with the participating use cases for their comments and for their, let's say, thumbs up that it's accurately capturing the outcomes. Maybe one thing that is important to disclose is that we do ask participants to come on board in a voluntary basis and sort of under their own initiative and own resources. Unfortunately, in the consortium, we are not in a position currently to allocate financing or funding. So this is why we would like to make sure that we are able to collaborate closely with use cases that are motivated to be part of this process and to help us co-define this European HTA framework for digital health technologies. We do have some values that we see could be quite relevant for technology developers to participate, and these are listed here. So I think the most obvious value would be for you to have early access to the EDiHTA platform and the tool. Through this EDiHTA framework and through the toolkits, you will be able to receive some feedback on the evidence gaps, methodological expectations, and potential future HTA requirements, which could be quite interesting insight for you when you are considering accessing different markets within the EU. Of course, by participating in the pilot, you will be sitting at the table and able to undertake dialogue with the full scope of stakeholders within the EDiHTA consortium, which includes HTA decision makers, potentially payers, and also the agencies and academic partners in the consortium that are defining this HTA framework. As mentioned, we will be looking to also pilot some training and education material. And so by participating, you will receive some training on the usage of the framework and the related processes. And then, of course, within the consortium, we have some committed partners with a large channel, large catchment, and large network and ecosystem. So we expect that during the piloting process, we will be advertising, disseminating, and communicating about the results. So there is, of course, great visibility potential for your company and for your technology as a pilot participants. And indeed, through participating in the pilot, you will be helping the EDiHTA consortium shape the first pan-European HTA framework for digital health technologies. So we would really be grateful for your support in that and in your knowledge and participation. So that's it from my side. I don't want to speak too much, just to also enable some time for questions and comments, or maybe there is also some other input from my colleagues on the line. If you do have questions, then we are available for you. So in the slides here, you will see our contact details. Myself and my colleague Fruzina from the Catholic University, and feel free to reach out to us if there is anything that we haven't been able to address. Otherwise, I think, Manos, maybe we can start to open up for any questions.
Yeah, I was thinking actually to go immediately into the Q&A because there are 2 questions there. Perhaps we can start by responding to those, and then whoever wants to address anything beyond that, as we said, please raise your hands, and then we can unblock your microphone, and then you can also pose your question live during the webinar. They're addressing something very similar, I think, both questions. I can see if first one is from Alexis Hagenstein regarding whether the technology must be currently implemented, as you've seen also in the inclusion exclusion criteria Adam shared. Basically, we're looking for technologies that are already in the market. Okay, so technologies that are implemented, not in clinical trials, but they are widely commercially available. Whether that responds to the question, Alexis. That has a reason. Although the framework has been developed in such a way to address the value of the technology across its full life cycle, so also from early stages, and you will see more of that the more we start sharing, information about what we're developing. In order to address this in a more complex, let's say, and comprehensive way, the framework, we need data and evidence across many various aspects. So usually that's why we selected, technologies that are already implemented, already in the market, because the possibility that these data are available is definitely much higher. So that's the reason behind this. And regarding the question from Francisca Canais, it really depends on the timing, on when you get the CE mark. If you noticed, actually, the Aquas use case actually requires for a CE mark. The finish, it can be either or. It really depends. I mean, also on what type of technology you have. So in any case, I would say that you submit an application, and then we'll go through this. And perhaps in your application, you can also indicate, when are you expecting to go through the CE compliance, let's say, certification. I can see you have your hand up as well. One thing I wanted to mention, and this is for all of you, and then I will leave the floor to you, Francisca, is that, unfortunately, we can do as much use cases as the budget and the timing that we have, in hand. However, applications will be kept as part of the exercise that we're doing in terms of long-term sustainability, because the way we feel about the creation and the development of the framework is that it's so complex and so comprehensive in the way that the digital health technologies out there can be so complex and so different to each other. So, it's difficult with 2 or 3, or I mentioned also we have the hospital side use cases to capture the full aspect of the digital health technology world. So, if you don't succeed now in this application, there is always the opportunity that we will recall you and we'll come back with an alternative to see how we can best reevaluate with using the EDiHTA framework, because what we feel is that we need to create increased capacity, and to increase capacity using the EDiHTA framework, we need to use it in real world context eventually. So this is part of the future plan and the long-term sustainability, which is something that we will definitely work on. So that's as a key message for all of you. And then Francisca, over to you.
Francisca, can you unmute yourself, please?
I can do it if you give me a second. No, because I can allow you to have the microphone. So you cannot unmute yourself now? Oh, that's strange. Okay.
So maybe meanwhile we had another question from Christian Lampe. He's asking whether he understands it correctly that the evidence for the pilot HTA should come from the manufacturer. So the evidence should already be there and no new evidence will be produced by the editor within the pilot assessment. So
Correct.
yes,
Correct.
Christian, that's correct.
We don't have the time or the resources to generate evidence during the exercise. So let's say the better the company is prepared in terms of evidence, and evidence can be also, publications, scientific publications, and reports, not just clinical trials, carried out in the past or in the pre-market access period. It can be anything really. So yeah, the more we have, the merrier it is for the exercise that we're doing, because as we said, the framework can cover a lot of different aspects. The framework, the way it's been developed now, it sort of encompasses together the EDiHTA core model and the Aquas framework. So it's very comprehensive. It applies across many different aspects or domains, as we call them in the HTA world. And again, we will select these ones that eventually we feel they bring more value, but in the same time, we know that not necessarily evidence are going to be available across all domains. So this is something that we will capture with a more qualitative way on what could be done to generate this evidence, how easy it is, how difficult it is. So these are parts of the evaluation of the framework as well, in terms of feasibility to generate this evidence. So this is where your role is going to be definitely most important, from your perspective.
Exactly. So just to add on that, if you feel like you don't have enough evidence available, I would still suggest you submit an application, because we are also realistic. We don't expect you to have evidence in all the domains that are marked in the application form. Just please clearly mark where you have available evidence, and we will take that into account in the selection. It's also an information for us if for example, one domain clearly lacks evidence from all applicants. So that's also something that we can use to improve the EDiHTA framework ultimately.
And responding to the question of Francisca, yes, it needs to be at least in the Finnish market. It can be in another market as well, but it needs to be as well in the Finnish market and have a presence there.
So we also have a question from Zitumi. She or he is asking, how does the EDiHTA framework plan to evaluate emerging AI-based diagnostic tools, especially those using non-invasive biomarkers such as saliva for early detection and prevention of systemic diseases?
I like the question. Can we take this, have a separate meeting to discuss this, because it goes too specific in a part of the framework. The only thing I can say regarding artificial intelligence is that there is specific criteria considered based on the capacity of artificial intelligence as part of the technology. So artificial intelligence existence itself is a classification criteria for the types of technologies. And based on the rigorous exercise I was referring to before from a scientific point of view, we reviewed basically more than 70,000 papers from literature reviews and so on. And we evaluated this also and validate this with primary studies, speaking with stakeholders and so on. So it's important to know that there are going to be specific criteria for these types of tools. But it's difficult to get definitely much more into the specifics of this now, because it would be analyzing basically the full framework. So I'm happy, again, as I said, moving forward, we will start sharing more and more regarding the framework itself. We have a brochure at the moment, if I'm not mistaken. The Open Call itself has a lot of supporting material that shares already quite a few information. And sometime in March, we will also come with a full framework in terms of dimensions and subdimensions or topics and subtopics, the way we discuss them. So people will have them, even if it's a first draft, because then there's going to be different iterations moving forward. And this will help also the survey, because we are, as I mentioned, we are in a phase where we will be sharing a survey for all relevant stakeholders, including yourself. So you will be able to respond to this as well. So that's another way of you to participate. And yeah, hopefully you will get more and more knowledge on what EDiHTA is building and how we are developing this. No, this is the last open call, Alexis. Eventually, if going into the timeline again, we are looking to basically finalize the selection by end of spring, onboard the developer manufacturers during summer, start also educating them, because it will take some part of education to the framework. You know, onboarding means also administrative onboarding. And then we need to somehow work together on educating you. What do we mean by all aspects of the framework, the evidence, and so on, etc. Then the actual HTA process will start, and we will also use the toolkit to facilitate this. This is very, very important, because it's for the first time, like, it's going to be a digital toolkit. So nothing like before, in the way that, you know, HTA usually are PDFs, 400 pages PDFs basically used by the agencies. I mean, they end up knowing them from heart, you know, but at the end of the day, having a digital tool that can facilitate this process is definitely going to be useful, and we're piloting this exercise as well. And, you know, the open call participants will be able to see this and have a deep look into this. And as I was saying, this toolkit will also help manufacturers and developers self-assess themselves against what the criteria of the agency are. So this is very interactive, and it's going to be very interesting as an exercise, I think. But yeah, this is the only piloting. Again, finishing the project, because the piloting is deemed to finish sometime in the first trimester, first quarter, or April, let's say, 2027. This will allow us enough time then to finalize the framework and the toolkit from one side, but also build on the use cases to create the educational material, which we then share again openly with stakeholders. And the participants specifically, they will have specific, also as an incentive. It's something that Adam mentioned before. So the participants in the open call will have like a full organization in capacity increasing, like on the EDiHTA framework.
We have a question from Christian. His hand is raised. Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah. Yes, thank you. I think I prefer talking rather than writing. Very interesting developments. I would like to understand how your work will be somehow integrated or collaborating with the two major developments in Europe that are relevant for this. One is the certification of medical devices according to the MDR, because I would think that parts of the certification process where some clinical information is also required are very relevant from the viewpoint of HTA also, so that there could possibly be some form of integration like there has been in the field of drugs. So you have the approval, the approval of drugs and the reimbursement of drugs dealt with in two different processes. And then the other issue is the connection with the European HTA regulation that currently is highly focused on medical, sorry, not medical, but drugs. But in the future, as far as I understand, that they have a strong intention also to include the assessment of medical devices. So this is something that probably you will face sooner or later.
Thank you, Christian. Although less related to the webinar, I think I can still answer because it's definitely informative to developers and manufacturers, this kind of question. So just to give you a bit of an overview of the work, both these regulations have been fully examined in their original form. We know that we're expecting an MDR update soon. And we are still keeping an eye, on what kind of regulations can actually impact the way the framework has been developed. So, and this is something we will do until the end of the project, So we're observing what is coming out. We know that AI Act as well is going to be implemented at the end of 2027, at the national level, and this might also arise some questions. So, as I said, we're closely following regulatory advancements and updates, and all this will allow us to refine the framework as well, because we are conscious of the environment in which we're operating. That's from one side. Having said that, and I will tackle first the MDR discussion. The MDR point is that this was brought in a workshop that we did with stakeholders 3 weeks ago in Brussels, and some startups and some medtech companies were also present there, and they mentioned exactly that. Like, we would like to avoid duplicating work. We don't want to be providing the same sort of criteria twice in a way. However, and what we clarified is that regulatory compliance and HTA are two completely different things, and we're not going to overlap, or we're not going to substitute the way that notified bodies are working. However, having heard what was said and what we did discuss as a consortium is actually to identify the specific aspects of the MDR that are part of the framework and somehow extract them from the framework in such a way that this duplication is avoided, in the long term. So this is an action, for example, that we have taken on board already from our side. And that's one thing. Regarding HTA EIR, that's a completely different aspect. Currently, it doesn't consider digital health technologies at all. And we don't even know if this is going to happen in the next revision from 2028 onwards, to be honest. And they're only focusing on clinical assessments. So they're only focusing only one aspect of digital health technologies, which, to be honest, it's very short, considering how digital health technologies usually they go much beyond that, because they're, even if you're talking therapeutics or diagnostics, the impact they have in the whole pathway is completely different to a drug, and they're also more dynamic. So EDiTA, in a way, it's building something that hopefully can create the base also for future regulations. Now, whether this is going to be health technology assessment regulation or whether something new might arise from that, which I think is most possible, we will be here to see. But hopefully, these use cases will also allow us to create some base and some knowledge around these digital health technologies. And then the framework can also assist towards that direction, increasing capacity, as I was saying before.
Thank you. Now I understand better. Thank you.
I can see on the chat then. Thank you for the good comment.
We don't actually have any additional questions in the Q&A box.
Okay.
So unless there are any additional questions on the floor.
Yeah, I mean, feel happy to hit us with anything. Miko, hi. Yeah.
Hello. So just a quick question to understand better on, you mentioned that robotics is not part of the, or is excluded from the pilot. So how do you define robotics?
I can refer back to what the DHT's definition within the scope of the project is, and this is already published on our website. If not, Miko, we can also send you some. We are currently expecting for a verification of a submission on the scientific publication that we have shared for this one, where it fully states how we define digital health technologies as a whole. So we can just say that robotics have been excluded from the scope of EDiTA as a whole, not just from the open call in that case. And I think the best way to respond to the question is if we refer back to the scientific work we've done, and this is a consensus-based definition as well, using more than 250 stakeholders across Europe, including patients, clinicians, HTA agencies, and decision makers.
Okay, Thank you.
Anything else at all? Anything regarding the application? Is there anything unclear to you in the application process, perhaps for someone that has gone through it and is not sure how to address it, or anything that is raising any questions from your side? I mean, as Fruzina said, I think, again, an application is an application. I think we encourage most of you, to submit it. We have already received, I think, almost 20 applications, if I'm not mistaken, something like that, which is a good number for us, considering we need to select 2. So, but at the end of the day, the more the merrier. And as I said, if you don't get selected, I think there's going to be definitely an opportunity for future collaboration, considering how we're working also on the long term, and we want to make EDiHTA implementable across Europe, and to do so, the only way to do so is through use cases. And I think these use cases can definitely add value from a strategical point of view.
So I have posted the application form and the call document, including all the available material. And now in the Q&A box, I have pinned it to the top. So hopefully all of you can see that. Maybe I will also post it in the chat. But again, if you have any questions regarding any of the steps in the application, or perhaps even eligibility questions, feel free to reach out to myself or Adam, and we will be happy to help you. We are working in a very agile way, so we are aiming to support everyone and all the developers who are planning to apply to this call.
Maybe to add to that, if I may, speaking under the control of Manos and Anastasia, but I think the slides will also be made available from today together with the recording. So you will have access to our email addresses, but if not, in the documentation that Fruzina posted in the chat, you also have our availabilities there. So you can reach out if you think of any questions that you haven't been able to ask today, or you haven't received a clear enough answer.
Yeah, I think it's worth doing so. I mean, I guess that usually during public webinars or so, people might be also cautious of what they're sharing in terms of information or questions. So if you want to pose questions, yeah, you can do that also privately, sending an email to Fruzina, Adam, myself, to the whole team. And we are very responsive in this phase. We're currently in a 100-meter run show in a way, trying to make everything happen. So, but for us, the open call is a very exciting opportunity, to really test the framework and its capacity, in at a real world context. And then, as I was saying, these use cases will definitely for us be the base for something bigger in the future. If there is nothing else, I guess we can also wrap up here.
Yes.
And thank everyone for participating. I want to thank also the team for preparing everything, Adam and Fruzina, and also Anastasia for supporting us with the logistics of the meeting. And I guess we can wrap up. Christian has another one. No?
No, sorry, that was accident.
Okay, that's fine. So yeah, I guess we can salute you all. We can say hi from wherever you joined us, and hopefully we will see you soon. Put your applications in, and we'll see you around, I guess. And if you've missed anything, if you want to touch base again, you'll see everything online. So as I said, this registration, this video will be shared through our social media, YouTube, and our website as well. So thank you for the support.
Thanks.
Thank
Thank you
you
for participating.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a nice afternoon. Bye-bye.